Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of Mastering Midlife, How to Thrive When the World Asks the Most of You. I am your host, Mark Silverman. Today, I have a new friend on the show. His name is Richard Pryor, not the comedian, because you know he's long gone. We have a new Richard Pryor. He wrote a book called Warriors of Life, Conquering Grief and Battling Your Way Back to Happiness. And he wrote this book because of the tragedy that he and his wife and his other son, Matthew, and Barbara went through several years ago. And he's here to share a message of hope. But let me warn you, this might be a difficult conversation for you to listen to, but it's also going to be absolutely inspirational and life-changing. So please hang in with us. Rich, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you so much, Mark, for having me.
So I specifically didn't talk about what we're going to talk about because I want to let you talk about the tragedy that you and your beautiful wife Barbara and your other son Matthew had to deal with a few years ago. Can you tell us what happened?
Sure. So thanks again for having me on the show. So 4 years ago, it's coming up on 4 years actually. Next Saturday is going to be the four-year anniversary of my son's passing. And what happened was May of 2015, we took this big old vacation to renew our wedding vows, our 25th anniversary wedding vows. My wife and I and our sons, Richie and Matthew, came with us. We did the whole thing up first class. It was just an amazing time. We had this amazing ceremony on the beach. We had a limo drive us around. It was just one of the most magical experiences we ever had. But little did we know that 6 weeks later, when my wife and I were shopping on our way home to have a barbecue the day after the 4th of July, we would get a call from our younger son, Mac, saying that he was at Richie's house and he wasn't responding. And getting that call, the things that were going through our mind was that he was wrong. Richie was all right. There was a mistake. He didn't know what he was talking about. And we couldn't get to his house fast enough. We drove, it felt like I was driving 150 miles an hour and nobody would get out of my way. And we couldn't get there. My wife and I are talking, this isn't happening. There's nothing wrong. It's all good. Maybe he just passed out, whatever. And then we get to the house and the fire engines are there and the police officer was at the front of the door. And, we wanted to go in. We wanted to see what's going on. He says, "You can't go in." And it's like, we want to see our son. It's a crime scene. You can't, he's gone. I'm sorry. And, when that happened, my wife, her scream, I can still hear it to this day. When I put myself back in that moment, I can hear her screaming, "Richie, Richie, I want my Richie," and that over and over again. As she fell to the ground, we both just fell to the ground, and we lay there on his front lawn for, it had to be a couple of hours. As friends started showing up, and we were waiting for the detective to show up and process the scene, and it was like we were watching a movie. It didn't seem real. I mean, we had just spoke to him 24 hours before. He didn't want to come down the Cape with us. He was going to go out with his friends to a party. And my wife had plans to stay down the Cape. And we said, no, we're going to go home and we're going to have a barbecue with the boys. We'll invite them over. That morning, we were going to go home. I sent the kids a text message saying, "Hey, Mom's dragging me into an antique shop. Lucky for you guys, you aren't here." And my son Matthew responded back, "Oh, thank God." And Richie never responded. And through the course of that morning, Matthew was calling Richie, and Richie just wasn't picking up, but his car was there. So Matthew went in, had the keys, went in, and found him passed away in his bed. And after that, our lives just unraveled.
Yeah, that viscerally, as a dad, I feel your heart, and that heartbreak. So where'd you go? What'd you do?
Drank. a lot of drugs, a lot of prescription drugs. The doctor gave me whatever I wanted. I was on every kind of cram there was, citalopram, cerazapam, lorazepam. She was giving me everything. And I just wanted to be numb. I didn't want to face the reality because it was too raw. Not being able to see my son again, not hear him smile, hear him laugh, not ever see him have kids. I just processed all those negative things day after day after day. I could not get out of my own way. And I stayed like that for pretty much a year and a half. I own my own consulting company, and I only took 3 weeks off because there was only four of us working for the company, and my son was one of the four. So I just kind of went from day to day like a robot. I didn't care about anything. I didn't care about how I really didn't care about my wife, my other son. I just lost hope for everything. I wanted to die. I just did not want to live. I couldn't see I couldn't see a future that made any sense to me, that I could have any kind of happiness ever.
Yeah, we talked about that before the show started. Like, can you imagine walking around just hoping a building falls on you, right?
Yeah, yeah, whatever. And I lost, it's like, okay. And I was flying, I was going on trips, and it's like, okay, if the plane crashes, so be it. It's okay. That's how I was thinking, because that's how I wanted to be with my son, and I
Mm.
did not care. It was funny how I didn't care about anybody else. I didn't care about my wife, my son, my dog. I didn't care about anybody. I just wanted to be with him because I didn't know where he was. And that's what scared me the most, is not knowing if he's okay.
Yeah. So this is I'm trying to conduct an interview and keeping myself together with this. I'm sure you're used to doing this with people. Um, so what were Barbara and Matthew doing during this time?
So Matt was our rock. God bless him. God bless that child. We went to the funeral home, and he, picking out caskets and cremation and all that stuff. Bob, my wife and I, we did not even know what day it was, what hour it was. I had so much emotions, the shock. We were in shock for months. And it was Matthew that really held it together. And he never really let us know how he really felt. Because I
Mm,
think he was trying to protect us.
sure.
He was trying to hold that in. I'm going to be strong for mom and dad. Because if I say that I wanted a building dropped on me, then we would start worrying about him. So he really held us, and he held us up, and he carried us for those first several months. And my wife, she was lost, and she lost, and she didn't know what to do, and she had most of the same fears I had. But as a guy, as a father, at some point, my caveman instincts kicked in. I don't know what those what I even just said there, but
Mm,
it was
sure.
like I wanted to fix everybody. It's like, I'm gonna fix her. I'm gonna fix this. Just like the roof was broken, I fixed the roof, and I thought they were things that needed to be fixed. And but what I didn't understand, that the only way that I could fix them was bring my son back from the dead. And it took me a long time to realize that I couldn't fix it, and there was no fixing. And I was trying to help them in the way that I wanted to be helped, because I I was seeing my world in them. So my life experiences, what I went through, my social conditioning, I didn't know what they were going through, because I had a different relationship with my son. My wife had a different relationship. She carried him for 9 months. And then my other son, they had a brother best friend relationship. So I was trying to do all these things, and I wasn't doing anything. I
Mm.
was just I was just stressing everybody out more, and putting more pressure on myself to try to fix this broken family and put it back together again.
Got it. I'm going to ask more about Matthew in a little bit. So when did it start to shift?
Phew, start to shift. So it started to shift when I was driving to the doctor's one day, and she offered me therapy and all this other stuff. And I says, no, I'm a guy. I don't do therapy. That's for crazy people. No therapy for me. And I was driving home and driving to the doctor. And there was a guy in front of me in a sports car. I don't remember if it was an Audi or not. You in Boston around the time a couple years ago?
No, it wasn't.
Okay, there was a guy in front of me, sports car, back, golf clubs in the back, sun visor on, glasses, the radio's blaring. He's talking on the phone, swerving all over the place, and I'm behind him. And I was so enraged. I wanted to hurt him. So I got to the doctor's office and I said, I may have a problem. She goes, but I said, I want to kill people. She goes, well, you can't do that. I was like, no. So I told the story about the guy in front of me. So she increased my dose of whatever it was, citalopram or whatever I was on. And then she said, you should talk to somebody. So I was at the point when I said, okay, you know what? I'm going to start talking to somebody. I don't care who it was. And so she put me in touch with the therapist that they had in the office. And to that point, I really couldn't share a lot because I didn't want to talk to Barbara, my wife, because every time I would say something to her, it would trigger her, and we would both be, boulder exchange. I would throw my stuff on her, she would throw my stuff on me, and we would never get anywhere. So
Yeah, who has the tools to deal with any of this, right?
nobody, but I thought I did as a guy. I should have those tools. I should be equipped with those tools to fix everybody, even this trauma that we're going through. So I started seeing a therapist, and I started unloading on her. And as soon as I started doing that, I started seeing things got a little bit better, just a little bit better, one moment at a time.
What is a clue that something's getting better?
That the things that didn't trigger me, that the things that triggered me in the past, it had less impact on me as I started moving forward. So I started going to her, and I used her as she was everything. She was my business consultant. I asked her everything about everything, and I really leaned on her, and she was a blessing. But what really spun my world around was about a year and a half later, because I was lost. Like I said, I was just walking around and just living life, and I didn't care what was happening with my business. I didn't care about my friends, my family. And then I had there was a billboard driving to work every day, driving to my office was a billboard, Tom Brady, Tony Robbins, and Julian Edelman, this National Achievers Conference. Like, okay, let me go to that, because the last Super Bowl that the Patriots won, I got to spend it with Richie and the family in my bar in our old place. And when they won it against the Ravens, it was just an incredible evening. So it's like, okay, I can go to this event. I can get a picture with Tom Brady, just thank him for giving me that opportunity to have that time with my family. So I go to the event, and all these people come out. No big deal. I'm waiting for Tom Brady. So Tom Brady and Julian Edelman finally came out. And then they're going to take a break. So I was like, okay, what are the pictures? And then 45 minutes later, I see everybody with their phones. Everybody's got, oh, look at it. It's like, what happened? It's like, you got your pictures? Yeah, they announced it. I was like, I missed it. So I went to this whole event just for that purpose, and I missed getting my picture with Tom Brady to tell him how much I appreciated him in the Super Bowl. So then the next speaker comes on. It's like, okay, I'm going to leave, because now I'm really irritated. I was angry to begin with. Next speaker comes on, and he starts talking about focus. What I focus on, and then the meaning I give to things. And those two things, that's what changed my world around 100%. Because what I was focusing on for the last year and a half was all the negative things about my life, about Richie's passing, that he was gone. And I wasn't focusing on what I still had, what I still could do here, And then the meaning I was given it was, my life sucks. I have no son now. I have no future. And then I started to think about, what else could this mean? What else could Richie's passing mean? And it's like, wow, maybe this is an opportunity for me to help other people. Maybe that's why this happened. That's maybe the reason, the meaning to all this. This has got to be a bigger meaning. And it was like a light bulb went off in my head after those two things. And that's when I started really shifting. My whole world just started shifting. And then the next presenter was the publisher of my book. So I had met him at the event. So ever since that event, my world just started opening up, and it's been just going, full forward since.
What was your first conversation with Barbara like after that event?
She asked me who I was. She goes, what happened? So it's hard to elaborate, something like that, talking about focus and meaning, because everybody, we get all these egos and stuff running around in our brain. It's like a lot of people don't think in terms of that.
Or it's a buzzword, but for you, it changed the trajectory of everything, where you just kind of shifted that so much so that your wife almost didn't recognize you.
Right, but the major shift was it gave me hope.
Hmm.
And that was one thing I was lacking in my life, was hope. Because I there was no hope. It's like, oh, life is just going to be horrible forever. I'm never going to have happiness again. I'm never going to smile like he used to. But when I changed the focus of the meaning, it's like, wow, maybe I could be happy again in the future. Maybe at some point. And I'll never forget, one person said to me, it was one of my clients. She goes, Richie, I know people are going to tell you this. Grief, it takes time, time heal all wounds and all this stuff. But she says, just take it 1 second at a time. And then maybe in a couple of weeks, months, years, you'll be able to take it 1 minute at a time. And that's how I started thinking about things as I was moving forward. Just taking one step at a time, get across this, and then move to the other thing.
So, grief, from what I know, what I've learned about grief earlier in the podcast, one of our early podcasts, Diana Bonici talks about grief and how each person, it's a very personal thing. So you shifted, and then you bring that back home to Matthew and Barbara, and they have their own processes.
Yeah, see, we all have our own personal journeys, just like you said. It's our own journey. There's no time frame on it. Because there were people that told us. One of my best friends in the world said to somebody else, "It's been a year since his son passed. He should be over it by now." So it's that, and it's like my wife had different relationship with my son. What I told them as I was moving through my journey, as I just told them, it's like, this is what I'm doing. This is how I'm coping. This is how I'm healing. I left it out there, their choice. If they want to listen, if they don't, they don't. It's like, it's their journey. I don't want to influence them. I don't want to stress them out to have to think a certain way and change their world. It was their own thing, and I just let them be. As soon as I let them be, all the pressure of my shoulders, being the guy, I felt so much lighter. Not having to be that mighty god that they built me up to be. I don't know if they built me up to be a god, but you know what I'm talking about.
That you built you up.
I don't want to be a god.
Good.
I didn't sign up for that.
So beautiful, because I was just thinking how generous that is, that you didn't say, "Hey, look, I'm shifting, you guys," and you just gave them that gift, and you were the one who was relieved of the burden, which is really beautiful.
So right, so true. Thank you for that. But in the beginning, I was doing everything, telling everything, read books, you gotta read books. I have like 40 books that I read. You gotta read this book right now. You gotta go. And I was telling him, you gotta go to this seminar here because you're gonna learn all this stuff. You're gonna do this. He goes, well, I don't want to do that. And then it took me a year and a half, almost 2 years to figure out. It's like, yeah, they don't need to do that because they're on their own path. And it's just letting people be is the most simplest thing. But I wanted to control everything because I was scared.
Yeah. Right. So as you're telling the story, I bookmarked Matthew because, again, being a dad, I have 2 boys, and I'm just thinking, so now you're okay. You can handle you can take care of your own process.
Yes.
And now how does that affect Matthew? When did Matthew start to get his, if he was the rock for everybody else?
Oh my God, Mark, he has this angel of a girlfriend, Janelle, for God, I think almost 10 years. They celebrate anniversaries for their day they started going out. And he just kind of, I don't know, we really never talked about it.
Mm.
He kind of found his own way. I always asked him, how you doing? And he would always say, I'm good. And as a coach, I want to dig deeper, but it's like, okay, if he's good, he doesn't want to talk about it. And I just let him be. And he found his own path. And he's really happy now. I have two beautiful grand dogs that came to visit yesterday. I cooked a nice dinner, and it's just it's wonderful to be, present and being in the moment with them. It's like I don't have any of these built up monuments, because that's what I did. I'm so glad you brought Matthew back up, because what I did when Richie first passed away was like, okay, I only have one son left. You need you need to have 4 grandchildren for me. You should get married at least twice, so your mother can give you away twice. Away. And I started putting these boulders on top of him, saying, you got to do this, you got to do this. And he's like, I want to be me.
Mm.
A long time to figure that out, until I sat with this woman, and we were at this conference, and we were at dinner, and I was talking to her about Matthew, and she goes, why don't you just let him be? Like, wow, it was so profound. But as soon as I let him be, we have this amazing relationship now. We golf and we do all kinds of cool stuff together. It's different from Richie, but what I was trying to do, I was trying to make Matthew both. I was trying to make him Richie and Matthew, and try to get the best of both worlds. And that's not what he wanted, and that's not really what I wanted.
That's such a good, that's such an important point. Again, I can only talk about this academically on the sidelines, but hear over and over when a sibling dies, how the other sibling takes up the responsibility of, taking up the slack or feels the burden or whatever. And you admitting that you were putting the burden on him is probably so healing to him that he could just let it go. That's really a beautiful thing.
Yeah. I mean, like last week he called up and he didn't want to come over because there was traffic, because they built a new casino. And I said, Matt, just say it's traffic and you don't want to come over. It's okay. Be yourself. And I just try to tell people to be themselves. Everybody wears these masks constantly, and they hide themselves from their loved ones, from society, and it's not who they are inside. That's why there's so much substance abuse, I think, today. It's because everybody's wearing this mask, because behind the mask, they can be whoever they want to be.
It's so funny. No matter what subject I bring up on the Mastering Midlife podcast, we always come up to, it's too hard. It's too much work to put the mask on. It just takes so much energy. So you were an IT guy. You had your own IT consulting gig, and now you're like, oh, and I'm a coach. So of course you took your pain, you took everything you went through, and you decided you were going to make a difference in other people's lives. What are you doing now?
So I can't talk about that. Let me see how I can transition here. Yeah. We'll have to do a follow-up podcast, because I can't talk about certain stuff right now.
Okay.
I'll tell you it later. So I hate to leave that big thing out there, but I can't. So
it's intrigue. It's mystery. It's
intrigue. Good. Okay. So, but I'll do a follow-up and we can go through that. So, after I lost Richie, it's like, okay, I got to do something. So it's like, when I lost Richie, it took us 4 months to get into a group for bereaved parents. 4 months. And the waiting list now, I think it's almost a year now, because there are so many, they're losing so many children to opioids and such. And so it's like, okay, let me do something. So I read all these books when I was going through my grief, and it's like, all the books I read, there wasn't one book that, gave me some kind of a, guideline. It's like, okay. So what I did was I wrote the book, Warriors of Life, and it's like a workbook. So it guides the reader through. Like I said, everybody's on their own.
I have to translate for you because of your heavy foreign accent. Warriors of Life.
Yeah, that's my Boston accent. I don't have no R's.
I was like, did he write another book that I don't know
the
about?
Second one.
Warriors of life, conquering grief and battling your way back to happiness, so everybody can hear it in actually the King's English.
The King's English.
Actually, Queen's English, like Brooklyn, New York's English. Yes.
So it's like, let me write this book. Let me put this book out there that's gonna give people some other ideas, some other options to help them on their journey. And that's all it is. It's a workbook book that uses a lot of the skills and a lot of the tools and resources that I used when I was going through my grief. And I just wanted to share them with everybody. And that's kind of what I'm doing. In the coaching side of things, it's like I just want to help people. I got this burning desire to just help as many people. It's so crazy because I was never like that. I would give, donate money here and there, but now it's like I am just like, I don't know what's come over me, but it feels so good to be in this skin. So that's why this all happened, is because this is the person I was supposed to be, at peace. I've never experienced the peace that I have in my life right now. And I think people think that I'm on drugs constantly, because I'll just sit out in the backyard and stare at the trees. My wife goes, "What are you doing?" It's like, trees are just beautiful. Look at the wind. I'll watch squirrels eat. It's amazing.
I was having a conversation with my brother just yesterday, and I've had this conversation over and over again. When tragedy hits, when they take everything from you and they can't take anything more, which in my own way I've experienced, that's when peace shows up. Like there's just nothing to fight for. There's nothing to defend. There's nothing to make, like the mask comes off. And I just got a card from someone I worked with the other day and said, "It's amazing how comfortable you are in your skin." That's not how I would have ever been described.
No.
Right? I had to have everything taken away from me to find that peace that money can't buy.
Yeah, because that's it. That's the social conditioning. We have this whole persona built up around us that it's all lies and make believe. I didn't want any of that stuff. I thought I did. If you see a picture of us, on the beach, it's not in my house, we have big pictures of us, having that wedding, renewing our vows. You look at it, it's like, wow, what a happy bunch of friggin' people. But for me on the inside, I was dying on the inside with who I had become, with my business and my mission and my purpose. I didn't have any. I was just making money and just buying more junk and traveling more places. But that wasn't me. Who am I now? I am happy with 3 crazy dogs, walking the beach this morning, and that's all I need. And if I can help some people, a couple of people a week, I'm at peace. Money can't buy that.
I will agree. I will totally agree. I will check back with you when your football dynasty is over, to see if you still can handle things. But so one of the things I love about your book is that it is set up. It's the storytelling and the visceral nature of it is really stunning. That's a testament to you being willing to bleed on the keyboard. But the other is, it's really, there are instructions in there. There's suggestions. There's things to go do, right? To help yourself.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you can share here that's succinct enough to, throw on a podcast?
What do you mean? Just
like, where do you start? Like there's a year waiting list before you can get into a group. Where do you start?
Well, where do you start is taking care of you. That's where you start. You take care of yourself. Forget about everybody else. I know it's so harsh, but this is me now. I don't sugarcoat anything anymore. I say it as it is. You got to be selfish. You got to figure out how you're going to survive, because that's what it's, a survival when you have a loss. Figure out what's going to help you. Therapy, get a coach, go get a personal trainer, go get acupuncture. I did all those crazy things, shamans, psychics. I didn't care. Nothing was off the table. Whatever I needed to do to heal, because when I am strong, when I am healed, then I can say, how can I support my wife? How can I support my son? But I couldn't do it from the place I was in, because I don't like to use the word broken, but I was messed up. I was messed up. My mind was clouded. I didn't know what was going on. So how could I even think about supporting them and saying, I'm here for you? I wasn't.
So give yourself permission to do whatever you need to do to put the oxygen mask on yourself and survive.
Whatever, whatever that means. And my journey was drinking for a year and a half and taking, antidepressants. That was part of my journey. I needed that to get to where I am today.
Right. A lot of people will be like,
It's
oh
okay
my
with
God, he
that.
drank. Oh, what?
Yeah,
And
well,
it's like,
that's people are so that's so stigmatic. Oh, he drank for a year, he drugs, and it's like, yeah, what? What else was I gonna do? That's how I had to cope.
yeah, no, God bless him. I'd buy him the
Nope.
bottle of Jack Daniels, as long as you're not driving, right?
That's it, right? I said I would have played bagpipes naked down on the Boston Common if it said they would have helped me heal. I didn't care. It was like,
Did
and
you
that's
just
why
pull that? Have you done that or did you just pull that out of thin air?
I
That's a visual, man.
yeah, right? It's crazy.
Okay, so let's switch gears. Tell me about the Richie Pryor Foundation, because I just reading about the foundation blew me to tears. The video is incredible.
Yeah, so the video, I'll tell you a little backstory in the video. The video was done. My wife and I had her cousin over that was helping us with some remodeling in the house, and we ended up drinking and carrying on until 5 o'clock in the morning. So that video was done. We were kind of hungover. So,
Oh, God.
so and it was so awesome though. We did so awesome. My wife was so awesome. We were just like, wow, I could use a cheeseburger right now. We were seeing the lines, but we did so well. So yeah.
God, believe me, it's like Fleetwood Mac rumors. I'm reading about all the behind the scenes of the Fleetwood Mac rumors. Your video, when people actually go and watch it and they hear that all you could care about was a cheeseburger. That's pretty funny.
Yeah, that's it.
But now let's go back to the good work that you're doing with the Richie
Okay.
Foundation.
So with my IT company, we service a lot of nonprofits called this one's called the EMARC, Association of Retarded Citizens, and they support children with Down syndrome, autism, and challenges like that. So Richie just loved working there, loved working with the kids, and just always had an amazing story when he came home. Oh, this guy Joe, he said this and that. We had a conversation, and it just used to light him up. So when he passed, it's like, okay, we need to do something. We need to make a difference. We need to keep you know, Richie's memory alive. And I kind of struggle with that, but I don't want to go into that now because he'll always be alive in us, and that's the most important thing. But this foundation is all about, providing children with assistive technologies, and that could be anything from iPads, touch screens, anything like that to help them have a brighter future. So we donate a lot of money to, agencies like the ARCs, as well as we have there's a school in Poland that my wife's Polish, and we go visit her mom once a year. And there's a school over there, and they do the same thing. So what we're doing is we're donating a lot of the funds to create classrooms for one-on-one teachings. So the kids can have a computer and a teacher in their own individual classrooms, and each classroom is dedicated to Richie, so it's kind of nice.
It's a beautiful thing. I'll put the link to in the show notes to all of this so that people can get to the Richie Pryor Foundation. And where can people find you?
The easiest thing is thewarriorsoflife.com, www.thewarriorsoflife.com. They can find me there, and links all over the place. I have a new online grief course that I just launched about 2 weeks ago. And I will be in St. Louis. My wife and I were presenting 2 workshops at the Bereaved Parents of the USA. I'm doing one called Relationship Unmasked. I just finished the program.
Yay.
And I'm doing a workshop for dads called Warriors of Life.
Beautiful.
So
the links to all of this will be in the show notes so that people can find you.
Awesome.
Richard, thank you so much for sharing your magic and your gold and just your hope. It's really infectious.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you so much for taking the time. It was so awesome talking to you.
To everyone else, take a deep breath. If you stayed with us through the whole thing before you go into work, feel what you feel. Go in, make it a great day. I love you and have a great rest of the day.